for it. If you notice for a second, just turn back for 1 second, at the end of Parashat, on page 874. On page 874, so Shlomo asked why it says, if you look towards the bottom of the page, when the Jewish man goes off with the Midianite woman, so then it says, 4 lines from the bottom on 874, Vayovo achar ish Yisrael el hakuba, which the ArtScroll translates as the tent. So why doesn't it call it an ohel first of all? And then it says Vayidkor es shneim, he stabs both of them as ish Yisrael ve'es ha'isha el kavasa. He pierces the man and the woman into her stomach. And it says Kuba, so Shlomo asks, what's the connection between Kuba and Kavasa? And why doesn't it say a tent? So I looked around, I saw one of the Sforim brings down, the Gemara in Avodah Zarah talks about a den of prostitution. It's called a Kuba shel Zonos. It's called, the word Kuba is the, I guess they don't use it's some sort of derogatory term, certainly not a praiseworthy term, and therefore that's all he says, is he mentions that Gemara, which is obviously why it's called a Kuba over here, because she's behaving like a harlot over here.
That'd be like when they say the belly of the beast, we're going into the
belly of the beast, something like that. And so there's no coincidence, and that's why it seems to be why specifically uses the word Cuba over here,
thank you, Rabbi.
as opposed to the island called Cuba, right? This is not to be confused with Okay, 876. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe Lemar. No, sorry. Whoa, I'm way off. Oh, whoa. By the way, Parashat Pinchas that we read yesterday, that's the second longest parsha in the Torah. Pinchas is the second longest. The longest is Naso. Is 168. Naso is 176. So Pinchas was a long laney yesterday. It's not longer than the double headers. We have a double header this week, is Mattos and Maseh, and this is a long double header. So it says like this: Vayidabra Hashem al Roshei HaMatos Livnei Yisrael Lemar. Hashem speaks to the head of the tribes. Zeh Adovar Asher Tziva Hashem. This is what Hashem has commanded. Now we have spoken in the past about why a tribe is called a mateh. A tribe is called a mateh, and it's also called a shevet. Both words, mateh and shevet, refer to a stick. A shevet is a staff. It also means a tribe. And a mateh is certainly a staff. We've seen Moshe Rabbeinu takes his mateh. He takes his staff. Why are the shvatim, why are the tribes called by a name, shevet and mateh, both of which also mean a stick, a staff? Right? And one of the answers is because they are all branches off of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu has 12 tribes, but he's the tree. They're the branches. So each tribe is called by a name which represents a branch off of a tree, which is either a shevet or a mateh, number one. Number two, over here he's going to start talking about the idea of making a neder. You always hear people say bli neder, right? When people say bli neder, I'm saying something, I'm making a commitment bli neder I'm not making a neder, I'm not making a commitment over here. So part of the idea is we're going to talk about what a neder is. Right? So the Torah says like this: V'daber Moshe el Roshei HaMatos Livnei Yisrael Lemar Zeh Ador Asher Tziva Hashem Ish Ki Yidor Neder La Hashem. When a man makes a neder, O he shova shvua, or he makes an oath, Le'esor Isor al Nafsho, to prohibit something to himself, Lo Yachel Divaro, his word should not be violated. His word should not be profaned. Kichol hayotze mipiv yasa, whatever he says he should do. Kichol hayotze mipiv yasa. Now, when a person makes a neder, what a person is really doing is he's putting something off limits to himself. And he's saying that, for example, the classic neder is where a person says, well, this cup of water should be prohibited to be like a korban. like an offering in the Beis Hamikdash. He's put that water, he put that item off limits to himself. A shvuah is I swear I won't do something, or I swear I will do something. A shvuah is more severe. And one of the differences between them is that a shvuah could apply to something that's an intangible. Like a person says, I swear I won't sleep, for example, if he swears. Now, here the Torah says that Moshe Rabbeinu goes through the heads of he addresses the heads of the tribes. Why does he address the heads of the tribes? Why did he starts with the Roshei HaMattos, the heads of the tribes. So there's several reasons why when it comes to pledging and making promises, you talk to leaders. For one thing, people who are in leadership positions, politicians, they make all sorts of promises. None of which, or very few of which, they actually end up carrying through with. But politicians make lots of promises. People in a high position, you might be tempted to make promises. Watch your mouth, watch your words. Guard your words very carefully. Do you know that it says that, the Torah says that Shem, the son of Noach, Shem ben Noach, it says Malki Tzedek Melech Shalem. The Torah calls Malki Tzedek, which is actually Shem, the son of Noach, was actually Huaya Kohen. He was a Kohen. The Torah refers to him as a Kohen, and he was meant to be the Kohen. Kahuna, the concept of kahuna was actually going to come from him. And it was taken away from him because when Avram Avinu comes back from the battle with the 4 kings, he blesses Avram Avinu and then he blesses God. And because he reversed the order, so he was penalized, he loses the privilege of being the head of the Kohanim coming from him. That's what the Gemara says. Gemara in the Durham says he loses that privilege. Why? One word changed everything. One word changed everything. How did you become the head of a tribe? How did you become the head of a tribe? One day, Moshe Rabbeinu said, you're the head of a tribe. That's the power of the word. The power of the word, and that's why it's addressed to them specifically. Because their position is a position that's a result of somebody just using a word. All it was a word. You are the head of a tribe. That's all it took. There were no elections, by the way. And the Jewish people, Moshe Rabbeinu was not elected. Aaron was not elected. There were no elections. Hashem said, you're the leader, you're the Kohen, you are the heads of the tribes. Moshe tell them they're the heads of the tribes. It's all one word. That's the power of a word. The difference between a human being and an animal, the most pronounced difference between a human being and an animal and the indication of somebody having free will. What is it? Speech. The ability to say, animals communicate, but they don't have free will. They're just some sort of instinctive communication. And when you study the animal world, I mean, some of the stuff that goes on is absolutely amazing. It really is amazing. You know, a young fox, a baby fox is already born with the instinct to understand how to do sneaky things. You know, okay, and a dolphin is born with an instinct how to do clever things. A monkey's born with an instinct how to do clever things. Some of them are just really weird stuff. The instincts that they have, but it's not free choice. It has nothing to do with free choice. It has nothing to do with a conscious choice. The sign of a conscious choice is the ability to speak. What's remarkable is a human being who misuses his speech is worse than an animal. No zebra in history has ever spoken Lashon Hara. And no lion in history has ever told a dirty joke. And no aardvark has ever sworn, has ever used a curse word. A human being has got a gift of speech. We daven with our speech. We learn Torah with the speech. And by the way, the Chafetz Chaim says, if a person davens and you're not getting, let's say I'm not getting what I want. I've been davening for a while. I've been waiting. I've been davening for. I haven't been davening for it. I would like a Mercedes. I haven't davened for it just yet. But be careful what you wish for. But sometimes you daven and you daven and you daven. Now Hashem has various reasons why He may not respond right away to a tefillah. Sometimes he responds, the Gemara says that tefillah can be answered right away. It can take 30 years. But there's something that could impede. Imagine a guy, now this is not my example, it's the Chafetz Chaim's example. This is the Chafetz Chaim's example. Imagine a guy that decides he's going to visit the Queen, when the Queen of England was alive. So the guy's going to visit the Queen. So he's going to give the Queen a gift. Now what do you give the Queen when you go in to visit the Queen? You bring a bouquet of flowers, right? That's always to the Queen, you bring a bouquet of flowers. Imagine this guy's a creative guy. He's a creative guy. He doesn't want to just if you bring a bouquet, so you have to have a vase that you put it in. You don't just give the flowers. You have to put it in some sort of container. Now, this guy's a creative guy. So what does he do? He goes to a Home Depot store and he buys a brand new, crystal clean toilet. A beautiful new toilet. Never used. And he takes the roses, he takes the bouquet of flowers, and he sticks it into the toilet. Should hold it well if there's a hole there. He holds it well. And then he comes to the Queen of England and says, "Excellency, this is for you." All right? Now, how do you think that would go down as a gift in England, where they're not not known for the great humor there, and you got to be, there's formality and everything else? It wouldn't go down so well. Maybe in America, in the White House, anything goes in America. In England, it's a little more formal. It wouldn't go down so well. Imagine a person comes to God with a mouth to speak to God. But if the mouth is soiled, if the mouth is dirty, the utensil holding the tefillah is weakened because of the way a person uses their mouth. The utensil itself is a weakened utensil. That's what Chafetz Chaim says. So if a person's going to die, a person has to keep his mouth clean. You know, there was a young man once came to Rav Steinman. Rav Steinman was the Gadol Ador. A regular from boy in the yeshiva. So he said to Rav Steinman, you know, whenever I've been in the yeshiva world, so the rabbis that I've always had, they say, if you learn Torah enough, eventually you'll taste the sweetness of Torah. You ever hear that expression? You taste the sweetness of Torah. He said, I've been in yeshiva my whole life, and I don't taste the sweetness of Torah. I don't have any appreciation for it. I don't taste the sweetness of Torah. So Rav Steinman said to him, let me ask you a question. What's the sweetest substance you could think of? So he says, honey. He says, right. And let's say you would put honey in your mouth and you've got cuts and sores all over your mouth. What would happen? He says, it would burn. Why would it burn? The acidic nature of the honey would cause some burning in the mouth. So Steinman said to him, if a person is learning Torah and his mouth is full of spiritual cuts and sores because he's not using his mouth properly, he's not going to taste the sweetness of Torah. So clean up your mouth, you'll taste the sweetness of Torah. So when it comes to the tribes, the heads of the tribes, the appointment, the power that we have in our mouth, that's why it's addressed to them, number one. Number two. Number three, by the way, do you know how to say to bend in Hebrew? To bend in Hebrew is noteh, to bend over. They're the head of the Mattos. Mattos means Mattos also means a plane, but that's spelled differently. Mattos over here means to bend over. What do you think the Torah is telling you with that? What do you think the Torah is telling you? Specifically, the leaders of the Mattos. What do you think the Torah is telling you of that?
They're flexible. They're humble.
Oh, when you're a Torah leader, you bend over to the people. You bend over. All the pictures of Donald Trump they're all standing and he's sitting. A Torah leader has to be willing to bend, not compromise your principles, but you have to bend to the people. You have to be willing. You have to be accessible. There's got to be a certain degree of humility. Not compromise the principles. That you can't do. The principles the Torah is not ours to compromise. But on a person, like they always used to tell rabbis, they used to tell rabbanim who were community leaders, you have to take the position seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. Take the position seriously. The position is the Torah. The position you represent the Torah. You have to take the position seriously. You don't take yourself too seriously, because at the end of the day, you're a human being with all sorts of flaws and imperfections as well. Okay. Now let's go on. The whole idea of not violating, and maybe we could turn on Reuven. I think we should turn on the air at this point. Thank you. In Pasuk Gimel, when it says, look at the precision of the terminology. It says lo yachel devaro. It says lo yachel devaro. Do not profane your words. Kichol hayotze mipiv yaseh. Should do whatever comes out of his mouth. Now here the commentaries say that that this is not only if you make an actual neder, or if you actually swear. Anytime you make a commitment, anytime you say to do something, you should do what you say. Anytime you say you're going to do something, you should keep your word. You know that Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, you've heard of Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky? So Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, he was nifter when he was 95 years old. And Eugene, I just got to ask you, if you're not able to are you recording? Is that the part of the shir or something else?
I'm taking the notes.
Oh, taking notes. Okay, that's fine. The Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky was nifter when he was 95 years old. When he was 90 years old, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky started putting on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. You know, some people, we put on your regular tefillin, and at the end of davening, they put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Because Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, there was a dispute on the order of the parchments in the head tefillin, and that they call it Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Our minhag is to put on Rashi tefillin. That's what we make a bracha on. But there are people who put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. By the way, the Vilna Gaon said that if you're going to put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, if you want to fulfill all opinions of how to wear tefillin, there are 64 different opinions of how to put on of how tefillin have to be made. The various halachic. So if you have 64 pairs of tefillin in the morning, by the time you finish putting on tefillin, it's going to be time to daven chakras again. So most people, but there is a custom that people have that they put on Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky started putting on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin when he was 90 years old. So somebody has asked him why. You know what Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky said? He said when I was about 45, I was once walking out of a shul, and a guy said to me, Rabbi, why don't you wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin? So I said to him, when I'm 90, I'll start. And because he said the words when he was 90, he started. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky was known, he said about himself, I never knowingly told an untruth. And they asked him what he ascribed his long life. He lived to 95. He said, I never knowingly said, he was impeccably honest. Somebody once walked, in all areas, somebody once saw him walking into where they sell gold and silver items. What's the name of a store like that? Where they have like goblets and platters, fancy gold and silver. Like you have the Judaica stores, all in Mea Sharim, where they sell the fancy. Is there a word for that type of shop? Not a jeweler, but like a high-end, one of these high-end. So they saw Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky walking in, and they asked him, it was out of character for him. What's he going in there for? So he said somebody sent him a silver Kiddush cup as a gift, and he wanted to get it assessed. He wanted to get the Kiddush cup assessed for value so he could report it on the taxes. Because he was meticulously honest. So when he was a Litvak, hardcore Litvak, and the Litvaks, there's a minhag on Pesach, Chassidim do not eat gebruks. You know what gebruks is? Gebruks is where the matzah gets wet. So the Chassidim don't let the matzah get wet. There's a concern that maybe parts of it weren't baked properly in the flour. That's a big minhag by the Chassidim. The Litvaks purposely eat it. Litvaks purposely eat matzah balls in the soup to show that we don't hold by the gebruks minhag. Okay, he was a hardcore Litvak, but he didn't eat gebruks. So they once asked him, why don't you eat gebruks? He said when he was 15 years old, he was a yeshiva bacher, and on Pesach he was eating they set him up to eat by a certain family, and he was very nervous about the kashrus standard. So when they offered him soup with matzah balls in it, he said, I don't eat gebruks. From the moment he said, I don't eat gebruks, he never ate gebruks again. Until his first wife was nifter, and then a few years later he remarried, and his second wife served gebruks. They were sitting at the Pesach Seder, and she served a bowl of soup with matzah balls in it. Now he has a problem because he doesn't want to insult his new wife. So he waited for her to leave the room. There were some yeshiva guys there, and he did hataras nedarim, the release of a neder, so that he released himself from. He considered it was a neder that when he released the neder because of sensitivity to his wife, he wouldn't do it. That was you're talking about different, but he never, knowingly. He once asked him to write a letter of recommendation on yeshiva stationery. So he took his pen and he looked at it and he was, I can't. But what's the problem? The yeshiva stationery had a picture at the letterhead. They had a picture of what the new yeshiva building was going to look like, because there was a project to build their fundraising campaign to build a new building for the yeshiva. And he said that to have that picture on the stationery is a misrepresentation of the truth, because they don't have that. They don't have that building or the trees or something in front of the building. So he wouldn't do it. So you're talking about somebody who's meticulous. That's what the Torah says. Kechol asher hayotze mipiv yaseh. Whatever you say, if you said it, you should. By the way, especially with children. Sometimes parents say things to kids, yeah, I'll get you, I'll buy you one, I'll go there, we'll go there one day, we'll do it. Don't say, if you're going to say it to your kids, you better fulfill it. And there were Gedolim who said, you don't ever patch a child except if he lies. Within reason.
Not these 3 weeks, though.
Within reason. I have no problem when people lie, because if you tell the truth, you get in trouble. So I'm not bothered when, I've had students who've lied to me. As long as you're good at it, I don't mind. As long as you got to be good at it. If you're good at it, I'm impressed. I don't condone it, and you shouldn't be lying. But the Torah is a Torah of truth. The seal of HaKodesh Chosamo Shel HaKodesh Baruch Hu Emes. Hashem's seal is truth. Now, you know what the Gemara says? Why is it that the word sheker, there's the word emes and there's the word sheker? I'm going to go up on the board, so if you want to follow this up for a second. Where's the? Here's one. Here's the word emes. Here's the word emes. And here's the word sheker. No, shin is like this. We'll put it over here. I got this. Here's the word sheker. The shin comes to a point like this. Shin, kuf, resh. So the Gemara asks, why is it that Emes, the letters of Emes, have a solid foundation, and sheker, this is a point, this is a point, this is a point, and this is a point? Why does the word Emes, every letter has a solid foundation, and sheker has a very flimsy foundation? The answer is because truth endures, and falsehood eventually is going to fall. It's going to fall over. Falsehood isn't going to endure. Number one. Then the Gemara says, why are the letters of sheker, shin, kuf, resh, in the aleph bays? The order of the letters is kuf, resh, shin, but they're right next to each other. And the word emes, you can't get letters farther apart. You've got an aleph, you've got a tuf, and a mem is one of the middle letters. Lamed and mem are the two middle letters in the 22 letters. So they're why is emes, the letters are so far apart, according to the aleph base, in sheker they're near together? So Gemara says the obvious answer, which is because people tell lies all the time, but one after the other. Truth is few and far between. That's what the Gemara says. How do you like that? How do you like that? But when the truth comes about, the truth endures. The truth perseveres. Whereas the falsehood falls over. Eventually, falsehood, it's a building of cards. Now, we got an interesting halacha. By the way, the Gemara says Rabbi Safra was once saying Kriya Shema, and somebody made him an offer. I forgot what they wanted to buy from him. They wanted to buy something from Rav Safra. He couldn't respond because he was in the middle of saying Kriya Shema. So the guy said, I'll give you $20. And Rav Safra didn't respond. So the guy says, okay, I'll give you $40. And when Rav Safra finished, he said, I'm only going to charge you $20. Why? Because the reason I didn't respond wasn't because I wanted more money. I would have done it for $20. I just, according to halacha, I couldn't respond. I was in the middle of davening. So the Gemara learns from there, you don't have to, you're not obligated by the letter of the law, but even if you think to do something, or you think you should stick with that commitment, an internal commitment. Let's say you think to do it, then you should do it. But if you didn't verbalize it by the letter of law, you're not obligated to do so. Now, I want to show you that there's a halacha here. And the halacha says like this. Go to Pasuk Vav. Pasuk Daled. The Isha kisidor neder la Hashem. If a woman makes a neder, for example, a woman, she makes a vow that she's going to stay off of, she's not going to eat fruit, or she's not going to eat meat. The Asra Isar Beveis Avia B'Neureha. She makes this vow while she's at her father's house. Vishama Avia Es Nidra Vesraser Asral Nafsha. The father hears the vow. Vehecherish La Avia, and the father doesn't respond. V'kamu Kol Nidarev Chol Isar Asher Asral Nafsha Yakum. All of her pledges, the vows, or whatever prohibition is, whatever the limitation is, that she's limited by it. Ve'im Haini, 4 lines from the bottom. Ve'im Haini Aviosa B'Yom Shabo. How does he translate Haini? I need a better word in English. If he restrained her, ooh, good word. Kol Nidarev Asher Asral Nafsho Lo Yakum V'Hashem Yislach Lo. Hashem should forgive her, for her father has restrained her. Here we have a halacha, and I want you to understand this halacha well. The Torah says, if a woman makes a vow, her father, depending on her age, or her husband, if she's married, can veto it. I mean, the woman says, I am making a neder that I'm not going to eat meat for a month. The husband, if he hears it, veto. He has a right to veto it. He could veto her oath. It's got to be within a certain amount of time. It's got to be by nightfall that he hears, on the day that he hears about the vow, he has till nightfall to veto it, but he has veto rights. Now, why is that? The answer is, Rav Hirsch explains, a woman, her main role, and the role that we appreciate, is that she creates the mood in the house. The woman is the home. A woman who starts to, she acts with a certain amount of restraint. She stays off of certain foods or certain cosmetics or whatever she does, which could affect her mood. And therefore the husband has a certain amount of veto strength. He can't have that in the house, a woman who's not functioning at her best, because the whole house revolves around her. That's the power, the strength of a woman. And therefore the husband has veto power over his wife. That's the on the oaths and on the pledges, on the vows. Now, here I'm going to tell you something that is knock your socks off here. Rashi on this pasuk, and it's not clear why Rashi says it over here. It's not clear why Rashi says it over here. If you skip on ahead to pasuk Yud Aleph for a second. Look on page 902 on Pasuk Yud Aleph. It's the commentaries discuss why Rashi says it on Pasuk Vav, but it connects up to Pasuk Yud Aleph. The Torah says over here, when a woman makes a vow, and the father, and it could be the husband also, when the father vetoes it, then the Torah says, "V'Hashem yislach lo." Hashem should forgive her. Now, why does she need forgiveness if the husband vetoed it? What does she need forgiveness for? Why should she get forgiveness? So take a look at Rashi on Pasuk Vav. Sorry, back to 900. Page 900. It's a remarkable concept, gentlemen. Take a look at Rashi on Pasuk Vav. It's on the left column of Rashi, about 8 lines from the top, 9 lines from the top. Do you see it right there? It says, Hashem yislach lo. Everybody see that? Anybody, if you see it, please show the person next to you. Left column of Rashi on page 900. Left column of Rashi, about 9 lines from the top. Everybody see that? Hashem yislach, Hashem should forgive her. B'ma kasuv medaber. What is the Torah talking about over here that it says that Hashem should forgive her? B'isha shenadra b'nazir. A woman took on a vow to be a Nazirite. V'shama ba'ala, and I don't know if it means specifically a Nazirite or she took some vow to limit herself in some area. Vishama bala vehefer lo. Her husband heard, and he vetoed it. He vetoed her vow. She vowed off, let's say she's not going to drink wine for 30 days. And her husband says, veto. Vihi lo yoda. She didn't know he vetoed it. She didn't know he was in the other room, and he said veto. That's why she doesn't have to hear it. He just has to veto it. Visho ve'overes al nidra, and then she transgresses it. She goes ahead and drinks anyway. Vishose yain u'matamel amesim. She drinks wine, or she comes into contact with that body, which the Nazir is not allowed to do. Zohi shesricha slicha. She needs forgiveness from God. Ve'afal pishu mufar, even though the oath was vetoed. It was vetoed. Now, technically, gentlemen, did she do something wrong? Technically, she didn't do anything wrong because there was no oath over here. But she thought she was doing something wrong. V'ima mufarin srichim slicha. If those which have been vetoed need forgiveness, kal v'chomer l'she'enan mufarim. All the more so those which have not been vetoed. So what happened? A woman says, you know what, I'm vowing off of wine. She says, I'm making an eder, I'm not going to drink wine for 30 days. And her husband's in the other room and he goes, veto. And then a couple of days later, somebody gives them a nice fancy bottle of wine. And the wife says, listen, netter or no netter, I'm not going to this is too good. This one's too good to pass up. And she pours herself a cup of wine. Has she done, help yourself, take a chumash, we're on page 900. There are plenty of chumashim over there. She's what do you call it? She goes and she decides to indulge anyway. So she indulges in this wine. Has she done something wrong? Has she done something wrong? Technically, you haven't broken the law. There was no vow here, yet she needs forgiveness. Why? Her intent. Her intent was something that needs forgiveness. So the what do you call it? Comes along Rashi, and Rashi quoting the Medrash. Rashi says, if that's what you need forgiveness when you didn't mess up, you didn't even know how to mess up properly. You couldn't even mess up properly. Imagine when you do mess up, what kind of forgiveness a person needs. Now, remember the concept that when Hashem pays, the rate of payment for reward is much higher than the rate of payment for punishment. The consequences, the reward, what's the salary, call it a salary, call it the rate of payment you're earning. You know, people, sometimes you work a job, if you work overtime, you get time and a half, right? For overtime, you get time and a half. You get extra pay for overtime. Any mitzvahs we get paid for, that's considered overtime. We get paid at a higher rate. For the Avera, you get. So if this is what happens when you do an Avera, so imagine the reward that a person gets when they do a mitzvah. Always remember the flip side, the positive flip side. Now, here the Torah says, so there's a famous story, the Chafetz Chaim. I'll tell you what the background of the story was. The background of the story was there was a Jewish kid, a Jewish yeshiva student who was accused of something. And he was in a non-Jewish court. So they brought in the Chafetz Chaim as a character witness. Chafetz Chaim came in as a character witness in the court. So the defense lawyer said to the judge, Your Honor, I just want you to know who this man is. This man, somebody once grabbed his wallet and started running away. And this man, the Chafetz Chaim, chased him down the street and said, I forgive you, I forgive you. So the prosecutor looked at the judge. He said, Your Honor, you don't really believe that story, do you? So the judge said, whether I believe it or not is immaterial. One thing I know is they don't tell stories like that about you and me. And what is there? Where there's smoke, there's the Chafetz Chaim. Isn't that how the saying goes? Where there's okay. Now, according to that story, by the way, they asked the Chafetz Chaim, let's say if you forgive the guy, what are you chasing him? Why are you chasing him to tell him to forgive him? Why did you chase the guy? If you forgive the guy, you can forgive the guy without chasing him. Why do you have to chase the guy and say, I forgive you, I forgive you? See what the answer, the Chafetz Chaim said? Because I don't want the guy to think that when he's using the money, that he's doing something wrong. Because you see that over here, this woman who thinks she's doing something wrong, it needs forgiveness. So I want the guy to know you're not doing something wrong. You don't need to realize that what you're doing when you use that money, you're allowed to use that money. Okay, you're not allowed to steal money and hope people forgive you. That is a different issue. But that over here, she's accountable. That's the first thing the Torah is saying. When a person makes a neder, now listen carefully what I'm telling you. There's two aspects to it. People get this confused all the time. There's vetoing the neder, that's to be mefer the neder, and there's something else called hatoras nedarim, which is a release of the neder. Now, what that means is like this. Let's say I decide I've had a little bit too much. I've been eating too much meat lately, and I decide, you know what? I'm making a neder. For example, I'm making a neder. No red meat for the next 6 months. Okay. And then about a few weeks later, I'm at a wedding, and they're serving ribeye steak, which I haven't seen in a long, long time. And I'm like, ooh. I can't eat it because I made a neder. I can't eat it. So then you could get released from the neder. How do you get released? A Rav, you have to go to somebody who knows the halacha, and he has to find some reason why you regret having made the neder. Now, the way it would work is he would say like this. If you knew at the time you made the neder that you're going to be confronted with ribeye steak, would you have made the neder? If the answer to that is no, he releases you from the neder retroactively. That means the neder never happened. It was a neder under mistaken circumstances. And that's what's called hatoras nedarim. Hatoras nedarim means I've made a neder. Let's say a guy decides, by the way, if you do something that's a mitzvah and you do it 3 times in a row, that has the force of a neder. So for example, let's say you got up every morning and went to the mikveh 3 times in a row. That has the force of a neder now. Let's say I did that. That's why you should always say bli neder. I'm doing it bli neder. Let's say I did it 3 days in a row. And after 3 days, I did it for a week. And after a week, I realized, you know what, I didn't realize this is taking up a lot of my time. Every morning to go to the mikveh, it's taking up too much time out of what I really want to be doing. So you go to a Rav, and the Rav says, if at the time you made the neder, you would have realized how much time it takes up, would you have made the neder? No, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have taken that on. That becomes a release, and you no longer have to do that. They have to do that. But there has to be a recognized authority who knows what constitutes valid release from the neder. There's actually a case of the Gemara where one of the Amoraim, or one of the Tanaim or Amoraim, he made a neder of some sort, and the Rabbanim were trying to find a release. They said, well, when you made the neder, did you have this in mind? He said, yeah, I did. Did you have this in mind? Yeah, I did. They couldn't find a release point for him, and they started walking around from the shade to the sun, from the sun to the shade, a very uncomfortable situation. So one of the rabbis said, when you made the neder, would you have made the neder if you would have known that this was going to cause them such discomfort? He said, no. He said, okay, you're released from the neder. That was a release in the neder. So that you have to know if it's a legitimate release point or not. But the release means retroactively there was no neder. That's what it means. Retroactively there was no neder. Okay. Okay, now I'll tell you something that's going to knock your socks off. Turn to page Pasuk Yud Gimel. So it's talking over here again now about a woman makes this neder, and this again where Rashi, not clear why Rashi said it on Pasuk Vav, but it really applies over here. Watch it. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. It's going to be too long to start now. We'll leave this for tomorrow. We'll leave it for tomorrow, but it's just a remarkable concept. We'll talk about it tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, page 902. Okay. All right. So tomorrow, remember, 12:15 will be in the other room. 12:15 in the Derech Beis Medrash tomorrow for the Parashat here.